I'm Ken. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to do a little bit of a show and tell. I usually script up something for this channel, and today we're going to do it kind of ad hoc. See how this comes out. People say that I'm kind of a calm presence on this channel, and I think that's true. I also try to be kind of an every person kind of collector and sharer on this tube. For the most part, I don't spend much money on stamps except for that white plain sheet I showed last time. My expenses on stamps are very minimal. I At the last gas show, I think I spent far less than $100 at the whole show. For me, collecting is about getting a lot of volume and spending some time around the table going through things. I do find, though, that as part of doing these videos, I haven't been having quite as much time for my own collecting, and so I've been kind of accumulating some things that I need to kind of process through, and we're going to share some of those with you today in this show and tell. But before we get on to the showing of my collection, I want to do a couple of thank yous. First one here, let's go over here, is a card from Ted from New Jersey. Ted sent me this wonderful bird. I don't know if you can see it on the camera there. A wonderful bird Christmas card. I just think this is fantastic. Anyway, really nice card. But in it, Ted sent some stamps. Let's take a look at those. We've got 3 packets here, and I'm going to start with this one, which has some stamps from Turkey. And also some stamps from Thailand. These are some nice regular issue stamps, and I'm excited to add those to the collection. Let's set those aside. Here's some stamps from Tunisia and Algeria, and some French overprints from the same regions. I'm really excited about digging into those as well. Here's some larger format Spanish stamps. Those are fun. So we're going to take a look at that. And then the next thing on the list that he sent was this big sheet here, which has 2 sides. And let's start on this one right here. Ted sent along these stamps, which are Cinderellas. I'll pop some of these up on the screen. Ted shares that these are stamps to augment my World War One collection. In particular, these are poster stamps from a creator called Delandre. He was a well-known entrepreneur, I guess is the right word, but also a little bit of a con man. Back in World War One, collecting poster stamps like these were kind of like collecting Pokemon cards today, or even baseball cards. It was a big hobby back then, and what we have here are poster stamps of military organizations in Italy, Palermo, Milano, Milan. And then also here, and here are some poster stamps for different military units. And so what you would do is you'd get a hold of and trade and buy these stamps representing different military units to try and get collections of these things. Down here are some more of those. This is a civilian mobilization unit. This is a French unit. And then this one was another area he was pretty famous for as a Red Cross stamp. There's this one here from, where is this from? I think this is from Austria-Hungary. So this is a Red Cross stamp. You'll see, I'll pop this up briefly. There's an equivalent poster stamp from, I think, the Czech Republic. So we'll pop that up and take a look at that as well. He would replicate designs. In fact, this person, Delandre, had a whole office full of artists who worked with him to create these stamps. But he was also a bit of a con man, it turns out. So this Red Cross stamp is part of one of the things he did. But the Red Cross contracted with him to create more postage stamps, and he would take some of the revenue and was supposed to give it to the Red Cross, and he never did that. So he wound up being arrested for not turning over those profits. He was, like I said, a bit of a scoundrel, but these stamps are just fascinatingly wonderful. These aren't postage stamps. They're not the kind of thing I typically collect. But that's okay. These will have a nice place in my World War One collection, and I have to kind of figure out exactly how to put them and where to put them in my collection so they make sense. Anyway, so that is a lovely addition. Thanks, Ted. Let's turn to the other side of this. There are a couple things here I want to highlight. At this top row are some stamps from Tonga. These look like they're self-adhesive. Let's pull one of these out. But they aren't self-adhesive. How does this work? I think these actually either glue or lick onto an envelope because these came out before the first self-adhesive stamps from Tonga. The other thing is I'll pop these up on the screen so you can see. I have a closer image. You'll notice that they have a star overprint on them. So these are foil embossed stamps. And on top of that, they are overprinted. So there's these six-pointed stars on the old values and new values printed in the same color as the overprint. So just kind of fascinating to see an overprint on a foil embossed stamp. I've never seen that before. This was because of a rate change, nothing special going on here, and these are not particularly valuable. But I do want to highlight that with a rate change and an overprint, these are stamps that actually got used, so that's kind of interesting. The other thing I want to point out on this page is these stamps right here. These stamps are from Latvia, and this one in particular is the first Latvian stamp. And I always love seeing and learning about first issues from a country. But these ones are notably interesting to me, and I've heard about these, but I've never seen them before. There was a paper shortage in Latvia when these were created, and these were actually printed on top of paper that used to be maps. So I turn these over, or maps and currency. In fact, these I think are currency prints. So you can see on the back of these, I'll put up a close-up image. This is old currency that's was no longer valuable at the time, and so they took the currency which was half printed and printed these stamps on it. So just fascinating to, we don't often look at the back of stamps, so it's kind of fun to see those in practice. Let me get those back into the item here. I believe the number 1 stamp here was printed on the back of a map, so I'm going to pull that up and just confirm that. We'll look at it together and see what we have there. So on the back of this one here, again, I'll pop up an image on the screen. On the back of this one, stamp number 1, is the map that I was talking about. So the number 1 stamp from Latvia printed on the back of old maps, and these stamps here printed on the back of old currency. Just fascinating, wonderful little stamps to take a look at. So anyway, I'll set those aside, and thanks Ted. I really appreciate you sending these along, and I've learned something, and these are wonderful additions to my collection. Next we have a letter I got from Zillard in Sweden. I think I've said that name right, Zillard. He sent along a number of stamps for me here. And these are stamps from largely from Scandinavia, although there's some Bohemia and Maren here from the Czech Republic. So what do we have here? Some Swedish stamps, some Danish stamps, and then down here an Iceland stamp and some Finnish stamps. And in particular, I want to point out this one because it has an overprint, and I know many of you are like me. I just love overprints. And this one is particularly interesting. It's a military overprint that was issued to soldiers in the Finnish military so that they could have a limited amount of free franking of mail back home. That's what that stamp was for. Now, anyway, Szilard, thank you for sending these along. I love them. I do want to show something to everybody as we look at this particular stamp. And what I've found out is that a lot of people struggle with how to use the Scott catalog to find a stamp like this. And I just want to point out something in the catalog and show you just how this is done. So I'm opening the album right here to the page for Finland. set that aside. This page for Finland actually has this stamp right here. This design is right, oh, where'd it go? Right here. So it's right here on the page. And so that base design, when you want to look up a stamp that has an overprint like this, you first look for the base design in the main part of the catalog. This is that main design right there. I'm sure you can see that they're the same. So we find that base stamp, and then we look to find it in the list. This is a 2M stamp, which is that one right there, I think, yellow-orange. Yeah, I think that's right. And so we find that stamp, but that's not the one with the overprint. So people are like, how do I find the one with the overprint? Well, it's actually, at least Scott and most major catalogs make this pretty straightforward. If you keep going down to the bottom of the section that you find the image in, you'll see this See Also section here, and it says C numbers 257 to 262, 270 to 274, 290 to 290, 291 to 296, etc. And then it says, for surcharges and overprints, C, and it gives another number, 195, and a bunch of other numbers, and then here at the end it says M2-M3. Now, that tells you exactly where to look in the catalog. M is the military stamp section, and the regular numbers are just regular postage section. And what you need to know about Scott to make this make sense is they organize their catalog first with regular numbers for the regular postage stamps, and then towards the back of that section, once you've finished the back, you come into a section of stamps that are labeled with B numbers. B numbers are semi-postal stamps, B1 through 3, and they go alphabetically, largely alphabetically. It's not a perfect system. Then you go through the B's, and the next section is a little bit more forward, should be a C section. Here's C's, and that's for airmail stamps. And if they have semi-postal airmails, there'll be a CB section, but this doesn't have it. And then next, in most countries, you'll have a J section for postage due, and in some countries, you'll have next an M section, and that's what we have here, M for military stamps. And we look back at our beginning thing. It said look at stamps M2 to 3. We come to the M section, M1, and then here we go is our overprinted stamp M2 and M3. And so I put that right up next to it, and you can see that is in fact the stamp we were looking for. 2M deep orange stamp, it's catalog number M2. So that's how you look up a stamp like that. Just for completeness sake, you'll have typically an O section for official stamps, a Q section for parcel post. There'll sometimes be an N section for invasion stamps, or stamps that were put in place by an invading army. So all those letters are fairly consistent from country to country, and so all you have to do when you find a stamp that you don't know where the overprint is from is to go find the regular version in the regular section, and then look at the See Also section and figure it out that way. So anyway, thank you very much, Szilard. I'm sure I'm not saying that right. Szilard. It's spelled with a C, an SZ, and so it's a kind of an odd pronunciation for an American ear. We don't have that combination in English. Anyway, so I'll put that aside and we'll move on to the next thing. So next on my list, anyway, thank you to everybody for those. Next on my list, I want to share what I have actively in process. This is a box of stamps that I am actively trying to parse. So in this box are all the stamps that I have bought in various places or received in various places and have not yet figured out where they fit in my collection. And so why do I have a box this size? Well, I like to go to various stores, and some of you send me things, and I get some things from the museum, and so I have a whole range of things that I have here. Again, I didn't pay much for what's in here. I would say the full contents of this box is maybe cost me $50 on that order. So not a ton of money in here. And then these stamps were sent by one of my lovely viewers, and I've talked about these in the past, so I still have a lot of these to go through. Let me pull these out of here briefly so I can get to the other stuff. So I have more of those. When I first got this box, there were 2 layers of these cards that filled up the whole box. So it's quite a lot of stamps came in that, and I still have a few to go through. This package right here are stamps that I got at the Waltham stamp show called Walpex. It's actually not in Waltham anymore. In their fishbowl, so I have a whole package of these to go through. So I still have that pile. This I got from the museum. It's a first day cover of a souvenir sheet, and that's going to go into my souvenir sheet album. These I got from a viewer who was kind enough to send me some Machins. We talked about these already. Some Machins in strips that I need to figure out exactly where they're going to go into my collection. These stamps came out of this blue box, and blue book that I got at the Great American Stamp Show, Gas. And I've gone through most of this book, but this book still has some stamps left in it. Although it's half empty at this point. I've gone through some of this, but I still have quite a bit to go through here. So that's exciting. But the back half is all but gone. So that's fun. These stamps are Edward VII stamps that I have to check under UV light and continue that project. And then finally, I've got these pages I got at Great American Stamp Show of Turkish stamps that I have yet to finish with. Now, I have gone through these stamps and put the ones that I bought this lot for into my, or haven't quite all got them into my album, but I put them into the album I'm making for World War One. Let me pack this box up and we'll show you that. Okay, I'm back, and I've got my Turkish album up. Let's take a look at this. When I opened up this Turkish album here, these are some of them that I put in from that sheet. These are some of the stamps, but there's a lot more, and I have that in a different album for a reason I'll explain here in just a second. These are the large format stamps for this series of semi-postal overprints. So these are B stamps like we talked about a moment ago, and these are large format stamps. But what I want to show you next is this book right here. This book is my book of let's see, where is it right in here? This is my book of stamps that are ready to go into an album, but haven't yet gone in for various reasons. And I have those stamps that go on that page right on this album. The reason they're in this album is when I went to put these stamps into my album, that's these here on these 5 strips actually, I realized that I wasn't going to be able to fit all these strips on the page I had. So I took these stamps and put them where they belonged in the strips I had for them, but put them back into this book. Sorry, I realized that's off camera. I put them back into this book with a note that I need to have extended pages for them filled out. So this book is the book I have for stamps that don't yet fit. This page, I added the little text here, large format, and I need to take this same page and print a new one to fit here so that these stamps fit into it. So we'll talk about that in just a second, but let's get a sense of this whole book. Like I said, this is the book of stamps that don't yet fit in my collection because I either don't have pages or I need something for them. So let's just go through this quickly. On this first page, I have a Japanese souvenir sheet that I've recently acquired that I don't have pages for in my book. On this second page, just make sure that's on camera, yep. On this second page, I have a whole bunch of Canadian stamps that don't yet fit into my album. And in particular, I've put a note here that these stamps need pages, and I just love this section here of large format animal stamps that I need to add. Those I need pages for as well. But let me pull up my Canadian album and give you a sense of what's going on there. So let me set this down. All right, just give me 1 minute. I'll be right back. And now I'm back. So this is the last page in my Canadian album. And when you see this page here, you'll realize that these wildlife issues, my album stops in the year 2000. That's because my catalog stops at the year 2000. I need to update these pages. These stamps right here go on this page. And unfortunately, I've got just a few of the stamps from this series on this page, and I hadn't updated the page to reflect all these stamps. So I've got the polar bear and the grizzly bear and the loon stamp listed, but not all the stamps on this page. So I need to update this page. And then all these stamps here also are from post 2000, so I need to create the pages for those. So that's my Canadian album. As long as I have the Canadian album, let me just show you some things I have been able to do. So like I said, one of the things I'm doing in my collecting time, in my hobby, is these videos. And so I do these videos, but that takes a fair amount of time. And so I've been trying to kind of get back to doing the basic stamp collecting that I like to do and spend some time on it. And I realized this book is getting a little bit full. And so I spent some time in the last week trying to deal with some of the stamps that are in this booklet. And so I've been kind of going through, finding the pages that I can do something with and adding those stamps to it. So let's look at my Canadian stamp book. And we'll go back a few pages because I was actually able to fill out this page of berries and trees. I've got a couple of stamps here for these berry stamps. I'm missing one there. And these trees. I'm not sure I'm totally happy with how this page has come out. It's a good page, and they belong together. Both these stamps are part of the same series. Actually, a number of other stamps are part of this same series, but I think I might break these into 2 pages ultimately, because I have on another page in the brown book 3 more strips of these tree stamps that just won't fit on here, so I needed to add another page, which I have to make and build. So anyway, that page has been added. This page is also part of that same series, and these are building stamps. So in that series, that same series has the berries and these flags and these trees, and all those go together. So that's what I spent some time on from my Canadian collection. But like I said, at the end of this day, I have to add the page for the wildlife stamps. And when I get that done, I have to kind of find a nice catalog that'll have all the new information, mount those stamps up and get them put into this album. Okay, so that's that page of Canadian stamps. Let's set this aside and come back to this book, because in fact we have the Canadian page. The next page is a page of Germany stamps. I've got a nice Hamburg souvenir sheet. This is actually a reprint. But I think I'm going to add that to my Hamburg page. These are some German local stamps that I haven't figured out how I'm going to organize those into my collection yet. And then there's this page of German stamps that still need mounting into the pages. Now, I have a couple of problems with what's left on this page. For this stamp, everything on this strip, but there's only one now, I need more 25 millimeter black strips. That's the most commonly used strip in my collection, is those 25 millimeters. The second most commonly used size is the 33 millimeter strips. That's this larger format strip, and I've just run out of strips, so I can't mount those until I buy more strips. I'll get those soon, but there you go. And then these down here are ones that I need either pages or just need to kind of sit down and deal with it. So I have pages for this and these flower stamps, but I haven't yet dealt with it. I believe I also have the strips for these. I think these are 28 millimeter strips, although Maybe these are 26s. I'll have to look that up. And for this strip, I need a new page created. So let's take a look at that in the album. I'll set this aside again and get to Germany. So this is Germany. And this is that first page. So you can see right here that I was able to add the strips for these stamps. I had a few of these already, but I left a space here for where these two large format stamps go. And I still have to get those added to the album, but I need that 33mm strip before I can do that. Okay, so let's move on here. Next we have these women, famous women in Germany stamps. I just love this series. You'll see that I have 3 here that I have yet to mount, and you can see that I've got a kind of a crunched up version of these here. I've got some work to do to cut the mounts to fit these and move them correctly, but I have already created 3 pages for this to fit them all in. So I've got this first page, this second page, 2 pages worth, and that should be enough to hold the stamps that I have, but I just need to do some work organizing and getting them in there correctly. Next up I have these historic sites and object stamps, and you'll see that those are here. These are the ones that I need. I think these are going to take 25 mount strips, so I have to get new strips to get those put in, but I have plenty of pages for that. I've broken it up into, I think, 3 different pages. Yeah, 4 pages. 4 pages of those stamps, but you can see that since I created the page, I haven't yet put the strips in because I don't yet have the 25mm strips that I ran out of doing this project. Okay, and finally is the flower stamps, and I have 2 pages for those, and I just need to take the time to get those mounted in here. So that's the Germany proper stamps that I've made some progress on. The second, I have 2 albums of Germany. Let's pull that second one up. The second album of Germany is the one that fits these CTOs. Let's actually not spend a ton of time looking at that. I think maybe they're in here. They fit in here someplace, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. I need a page for those. These are all CTO versions of those stamps, and so what I wanted to do is have a CTO page and a regular page and not intermix them, so that needs to be done to fix that up. But as long as I've got this German album up, I was able to take off of this page some stamps that I was able to mount in this album, and in particular I was able to add these stamps to this album, these Views of Old Berlin stamps. I just have 3 of them so far, but that's just fine. And then next is these 3 stamps, and these are the New Berlin stamps, so buildings with the New Berlin with a new design style. I like both these stamps, but you'll see these required a larger mount that I had to order, and I had recently got those in to add those to the album. So I think we're done there. Ah, yes. And then this stamp is the only one I have. This is the last series out of the GDR of regular issue stamps, and I just have this one stamp from it, the 80-cent red-brown. So that's here on the last page of my GDR section of this album. So that's my German stamps. Let's put this album away. And let's get back to this booklet. So I think what you can see is that I am having some fun going through a backlog of stamps that really need some attention to get correctly filled into my albums. A lot of fun, but I'm spending so much time on this channel that sometimes I don't have much time to do my own collection, which is okay. I'm having fun with both projects, but I gotta give this new project some love. Okay, so now on this page is a couple of things. I've got stamps from Australia. There were a lot of stamps from Australia in here when I started, so many so that I had just stacked them on this page. But I was able to add a lot to my Australian album. I'll show you that in just a second. These stamps at the bottom are stamps that I need more pages in my World War I album. In particular, I need just more pages to hold all the varieties of these from Austria. And these down here are some stamps that I don't actually have the pages for because they came, for most of these, they came after World War One, but just afterwards. And they're kind of the after effects of World War One and some of the stamp occupations that happened after World War One ended, but still had some postal implications to it. And I want to add to my World War One album to make this part of the story make sense. Anyway, those are there. Let's take a look at my Australian album and show you what I have been able to do. Because when you look at this page, it looks like I just totally failed. So I have a new album page that I need for these. And all these stamps down here, I need 25 millimeter strips. And like I said, I'm just out of those strips. So let's bring up Australia. Put that back in. Okay, so this is my Australian album. And I added all the stamps on this page to this album. There was nothing on this page when I started going through this book. All these stamps were in that book and not on my page. So I'm happy with how this page came together. I am missing the watermark variant for this stamp and the watermark variant for this stamp. But otherwise, this page is almost complete. Let's move forward. This is interesting. I have taken an old glassine on this page and I've clamped it in through the 3-ring binder because there's a couple of stamps on here that need to go in the top strip. But again, this is a 25 millimeter strip and I don't have any more of those. So that's, it's maybe not the wisest thing that I ever did to store stamps in 2 different places for the same purpose, but that's what I've done. And so those are sitting right there waiting for the 25 millimeter strip. I was able to add everything from this page. You may have seen that on my Instagram page if you follow me there. This is the complete page. It's done. All these stamps were in the brown book and are now in my album. So I'm glad I was able to add that. Let's see. The next thing I want to show you is on this page. This page is actually kind of fascinating to me. It's not finished yet, but it's pretty darn close. Let me just make sure that's actually on camera. Yeah, a little adjustment there. Good. This page, I showed you the Canadian page where they had buildings on one page and flags on another page and berries on a third page. This is the same thing going on here. These are regular issues from 73 to 84. And they are various kinds of things that are iconic of Australia. So on this top strip are the super low value or low value stamps of gems from Australia. In here is a regular version of the 8-cent stamp and an overprint version of the 8-cent stamp. These are opals, I think. Yep, there's an 8-cent and a 9-cent opal stamp. We've got another vertical format small value stamp of a flower, and that matches in style to this stamp down here. And then these 4 stamps are various types of crustaceans, sea life that are famous in Australia. These, by rights, if I'd made some sense here, I would have put this strip first, but I didn't. Oh well, I'll live with that. Next in this series are the medium value stamps, and there's only 4 of these. These are here. A wombat, a spiny anteater, a possum, and a feather-tailed glider, which I think is a flying squirrel, but I'm not exactly sure. Anyway, those belong on this page. And then next is a whole range of high-value stamps, $1 to $10. And these are all famous pieces of artwork from Australia. And so we have minerals, we have sea life, we have animal life, and we have some flowers, some flora and fauna, and artwork on this page. I've got the $1 version here. There are 2 other vertical format artwork stamps, and I've got 2 of these $2 stamps. There are 2 others that fit in this series that are horizontal format, one there and one is going to go here. But there's also, 3 or 4 other stamps that fit in this series that I haven't seen at all in my collection, and they are they are stamps that honor various technological achievements of Australia: spectrometry, radio astronomy, immunology, and oceanography. So there's 4 stamps. Now those stamps look like regular horizontal format commemorative stamps. I'll try and find one online and pop it up in this video someplace, and show you what those look like. Since I collect regular issue stamps, as I do my initial scan through lots that I get, I typically look for stamps that are this shaped and this size, small. I don't typically look for these bigger stamps, and I certainly don't look for stamps that look like the ones that hopefully I have on screen now, because they just scream to me that they're commemorative stamps. But in fact, these 4 stamps are the regular issue stamps in this series. So we've got the rocks, the animals, the flowers, the paintings, the animals, and these technology issues, all part of the same series. I just love that, representing all these elements of culture and resources that you have in a country like Australia. So just a fabulous addition to my collection. To see these all put together like this really tells a nice story as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so let me put the Australian stamps away and we will move on in this book. I have a few US stamps that I just need to find the right spot for. And you'll notice that I've got these stamps which are commemoratives, and I've got these which are cutouts from souvenir sheets. When I turn the page, I think we have more of those. Yeah, here we go. On this page right here, I've got more of the same. Some commemoratives, some souvenir sheet cutouts, various things that go into my US collection that I just have yet to tip into the right spots, either because I haven't had the time or haven't had the mounts. So we'll deal with those in a second. These are those Turkish stamps we already talked about. So I'm thrilled to have those in mounts now. I just need to make the pages to put them in. You'll see here are a whole nother page of Canadian stamps, and for the most part, except for these 2 strips of tree stamps, I need to get the catalog so I can make the pages that go with these stamps. So that'll be a ton of fun to finish that up. And these tree stamps, I need to just make one more extension page to fit those strips into. Okay. We talked about this page already, and then I have this page right here. This is some stamps from British South African company, which is also called Rhodesia. These fit into my World War I album, but I don't have and didn't recognize that I needed pages for Rhodesia. We talked about that in an earlier video, so these need a page in my World War I album. This page is all my French stamps, and as I've been going through dealing with my own collection instead of dealing with these videos, I have just not gotten this far in the album yet. So we're making progress, but these are all French stamps that fit into my album someplace, and I haven't got these put in. In this case, I've got a mixture of stamps which require 25mm mounts, stamps that require new pages to be created, that kind of thing. So I've got some work to do on this page of all the kinds of things we talked about before. I'll turn the page here and we move on to the last section that I want to talk about in my US collection. These are stamps, commemorative stamps, that fit into my US commemorative album. Now, this takes a little bit of explaining. You know that I generally am a regular issue collector, and when I started that regular issue collection, I took it out of, let me grab this. I took it out of this album. This is my Scott Minuteman album, and it is kind of beaten up and old, and you can just see how awful this album is. But anyway, I took these stamps out of, I took my regular issue stamps out of this album and put them into, grab that, and put them into my regular issue stamp album. So the stamps that used to be in that album are now in this album, because I took out of here everything that was regular issue. So you see the blank spaces, where I used to have stamps in here, and this just looks awful, right? But I do have stamps that are commemorative stamps in here. And in fact, these are the first U.S. commemorative stamps, the Colombian stamps. And I have a few here, the 6, the 8, and the 15. 6, an 8, a better copy of 8, and a 15 that go into this album that I haven't yet mounted into this album. And the reason I haven't done that is that I want to move the stamps that are in here out of here and into, let me just put this aside for a second, and into a new album that I'm creating. So I've got some nice stamps here, but so see the missing 10 here. That missing 10-cent stamp is right here, and I just don't want to bother mounting it until I create my new commemorative album. So one of the projects I've been doing is taking the stamps that are, not taking the stamp, taking the catalog and going through and creating a commemorative album for these stamps that will match my regular issue stamps for the US. That said, I've got a whole bunch of stamps that belong in this album all the way down, some really nice ones here. But mostly what I have is a whole bunch of mint regular issue stamps that I got in a recent lot that I'll need to replace the stamps that are in here in used condition and improve that album. So they're all in order here. It's not that I don't have these stamps, but these are ones that I don't yet have mint copies of. So a whole bunch here, and then you'll see here that even though this isn't all mint, these are used copies of these stamps, but I didn't have this whole set, so I'm glad to have just the used copies of that. Actually, even if I had a mint sheet of this, I'm not so sure I would want to collect it as a mint sheet. I love these stamps, but the mint sheet is giant and doesn't fit into an album, and I'm reluctant to just rip up mint stamps and put them into an album, so I kind of like collecting these in a used set. Anyway, there you go. That continues on through here, and then right around, I think we're right around here, this album stops, and I don't even have pages in my Minuteman album. And you can see in my Minuteman album just how thick it is. I don't know if you can see that from this angle, but you can see just how thick this album is and how old. I don't want to add new pages to this album. I want to create new pages and create a whole new album. So that's that project that's in play. So anyway, to do this project, I have entered in all these pages up to 1969. I'll finish the 1969 up to 1969 album, and then I'll decide if I really want to augment my collection to include 70 forward. So we'll figure that out after I've done the up to 1969 series. So I'm happy with how that's going. What else do I have? Oh, and I'll definitely keep this album, because this album has my airmails and my postage dues and all the other back of the book stuff. So that'll stay in here. And then what's the last thing I want to show and tell? Yes. So the other thing in my collection that is in progress that I just don't have as much time to work on is, let me grab this book, is this book right here. Has a section for Belgium. Let me open that up. This is my Belgium stock book. I'm constantly making new regular issue albums for myself, and the one I've decided to make next is Belgium. And the reason I've decided to make Belgium next is that things are getting a little chaotic in my stock book. So you'll see when I started this, I didn't presume that I would be getting some of the earlier Belgian stamps. So the first stamp I have in here is the 1869 to 78 series that starts with Scott number 28. And so I started doing these by series, which was fine. But then I acquired this one right here, this Scott number 15. Really nice stamp, not that expensive, but I got a hold of it, and it didn't fit. I didn't have a strip for it, so I tucked it in over here. And over time, I got more of these stamps, which are unexpected for me, and started to tip them in until I, in fact, got this one right here, which is Scott #1 from Belgium. Again, not a particularly expensive stamp. Actually, this one is rather expensive for catalog value, but you can pick it up for about $10. This stamp came in a lot that I got. I think I probably paid $10 for the whole lot. So I'm thrilled to find that in the lot. Like I have always said, stamp collecting is a treasure hunt, and those treasures are out there. I say that because a lot of people reach out to me on the channel comments asking me to evaluate whether their collection is valuable. And I think when they ask if their collection is valuable, they're really asking, is my collection worth tens of thousands of dollars, right? This stamp right here catalogs for $100. That is not breaking the bank of anyone. You know, nobody's retiring on $100. And this $100 catalog value stamp is actually only going to cost you about $10. I don't think you're going to be able to sell this for more than $10 on eBay. So nobody's retiring on that kind of money, but there are treasures in album lots that are there if you are that kind of collector who enjoys a first issue stamp that catalogs for $100 like I do, and am thrilled that I'm never going to sell it for the $10 I think I can actually get. Anyway, this 15 is new. These 12s, 1, 10, they're just chaotically in here. And I got all these stamps, and now I don't have room to put them here, so I had to add a 7 down here and a 13 over here. So you can just see my Belgium collection is going crazy. So I have started making pages for my Belgium collection, just like the commemorative US commemorative set. And so this will be the next series that I make a full album out of. All in all, I've got a good set of Belgian stamps. Nothing spectacular, but it's coming along pretty well. There's lots of holes in it. I'm always happy to have holes in my collection because it means I get to keep collecting them. But this is my Belgian collection, and we'll see how that goes from here. Okay? So I think with that, we are done with this collection. Let me just look around a little bit. Yeah, I think we've covered... Oh! There is one more thing. There is one more topic we need to do. This is my Belgian collection. Let me put that away, and let me bring one more thing back up onto the counter, and we can talk about that. Okay, thanks for indulging me. I'm back with the last thing we're going to go over. Let's take a look at this album right here. This album is some homework I got from the Spelman Museum. This is an album that was donated to the Spelman Museum, and I've started going through this album because I think you can see right here, these pages in this album are just in terrible shape. So this is the Great Britain section, so we're a little bit of a way into it, but you can see these pages are not acid-free pages, and you can see browning along the edge, and you can see, I don't know, I pull it over here, you can see parts just falling off of it all over the place. This is damaging the paper, and it also turns out is damaging the stamps that are inside this album. So my task from the museum is to take this album and actually pour through it to see if there's any good stamps in it, make sure I pull those stamps out of here, and make them available either for the museum collection or for selling in the museum store or in other places. And otherwise removing all the stamps from this album so that they don't get damaged by this album paper. So terrible shame, because this album is honestly pretty beautiful in terms of its layout, but it is really a shame that it was made on this paper that is just crumbling to the touch. It's just, this paper is in terrible shape. When this album was released, each page had a sheet between it to keep it nice. And I've moved forward in this album to this page right here. This page has some early French stamps on it. I've pulled out a few stamps from this. You'll see here, right here, this is a stamp number 60 and 61. I've marked this for the museum store with a catalog value of $10.50. And at the museum in Spelman, we typically mark these at about 1/3 price in the museum store. So these two stamps here I've marked at $3.50 for the pair of them. So I've got a whole bunch of stamps like this from the French section. Here's a 62 and 63. These are faulty. I've marked those at $2, so they're not very expensive. Here's a 56 cataloging for $3.50, and you'll see some really nice stamps. Now this one right here is French number 47. Let's see if we can get that up on in the image here. It's an orange series stamp. Pretty nice stamp. Catalogs for $85, and I've marked it at $28 to go into the museum store. So if you come into the museum, you'll be able to get some nice stamps here. Here's some more from Belgium. These are those early Belgian stamps that we just took a look at. Here's some nice early Netherlands stamps, some Switzerland stamps. I've pulled out a lot of really high quality stamps for the museum store that you can get a hold of. On top of that, I'm going through, and any stamp that isn't valued at more than, I think we look at catalog value at about $3 is worth the time to put them in an envelope and put them in the store. What I'm do with the rest of the stamps is create a glassine that all the stamps that are lower than $3 catalog value, and throw them into one of these glassines and get them out of this album so they don't get damaged further. And we'll put these into the mystery box. So I have a packet of Belgian stamps like that, a package of Netherlands stamps like that, and a package of Switzerland stamps. You can see a lot of standing Helveticas here. So if you go and get mystery boxes from the Spelman Museum, you just might find one of these nice old lots of lower cost but harder to find older stamps that come out of an album like this. Now, part of what I'm doing here is finding things that are a little bit better than either of these other two stamps, and the real treasure that I've pulled out of here so far is this stamp right here. This is a Andrew Jackson, what's commonly called in U.S. Stamp collecting a blackjack. Let's see if we can get that good. Yeah, so there's a blackjack stamp. Now this is a grilled blackjack stamp. It is, let me make sure the glare isn't on it when I'm talking about it. This is a grilled blackjack stamp. It is a grill. A grill is markings that have been put on the stamp so that it can't be reused. It's hard to erase the cancels on a stamp like this. And this particular stamp has what's known as a Z grill. If you're a more advanced collector, you may have heard of a Z grill before. This is not that Z grill. That is like a stamp that there's only one copy of. But there is a Z grill version of this Andrew Jackson stamp, and this is it. It's stamp number 85B, and this catalog value is about $1,200. Now, I typically think that you can buy a stamp on eBay for about 10% of its catalog value. But in this case, a rare stamp like this is probably more like a $500 stamp. This stamp I pulled out of this album, so that's a real treasure. On top of that, I was able to find these nice pictorial issues. I've got a 113. This I bought one copy of at the gas show. So I added this to my collection recently. This catalogs at $85. This is the 12-cent version. It catalogs at $125. And this 15-cent version catalogs at $800. So all of these came out of this album and really needed to be rescued from here. And this particular stamp, I think, is an addition to the museum's collection. And so, as a volunteer, my job is rescue stamps, make sure that the ones that fit into the collection get into the collection, and then make sure that the ones that are of significant value get sold appropriately. And the ones that aren't of significant value get meted out to collectors in various ways via things like the mystery box. So I've got a Switzerland number 93, catalog 110, Switzerland 39, cataloging at 185. This is a 49 and 49A, a Prussian blue of a German stamp. That catalogs at $110. Here's an old Norway stamp that catalogs at $150. And then this is another interesting stamp. It is a Netherlands stamp that's actually fairly common, number 7 and number 8, both of these are fairly common stamps, but these are actually perforated 13 3/4, and there is no listing in the Scott catalog for stamps at this perforation. So I need to take this back to the museum curator, and we need to look at that together and see if that's some kind of rare oddity, or perhaps I've read the catalog wrong, and make sure that either gets in the collection or my error gets corrected. So that's what I'm doing with an album like this. I would say if we get 20 albums donated to the museum, which is probably we get maybe 10 to 20 albums donated to the museum per week, which is fantastic. We only get one of these every couple weeks. One album like this that has significant stamps in it every couple weeks. And so it is really a joy to get an album like this and take a look at some stamps that I don't really get a chance to look at very often, and to realize that I'm actually rescuing some stamps out of an album that otherwise are going to be damaged with time. And so that's nice. Most of the stamps in here are of no particular value, but occasionally, like I said, there's some really nice things in here. Some nice Turkish stamps. Anyway, nice album that unfortunately has gotten much worse with age, and we'll rescue things and hopefully make some nice additions to some people's collections as we do that. Anyway, yeah, here's some early Italian stamps. These are pre-Italy Naples stamps. Here's some Sicily provisionals. Things I just don't see very often. Very early Italian stamps. So there's a lot of joy in here. So anyway, let's wrap it up here, and thank you for watching my Stream of Consciousness stamp video. I really enjoy my stamp collection. The reason I created this channel was to share my stamp collection with people as I find exciting things about it. And I'm recognizing that as I do these videos, I'm taking away from time from doing my own collection, which is fine. I don't mind that particularly much. But occasionally I need to dive in and actually work on my collection so that I have material to share with all of you. I hope you've enjoyed looking at some of the progress I'm making, and I hope you all have a sense that it doesn't take a lot of money to have a really nice stamp collection if you're willing to put in the time to searching through some old lots and find those treasures. I'm really happy with how my collection is coming out. I encourage you to spend a little bit of money, in the $20 range, to find yourself a lot and pick through it and really make a big difference in your collection. Anyway, thanks for joining me today. Leave comments if you like this format of video. I'm happy to keep sharing like this, or do more and more of the deep dives into certain series and countries in my collection. Either way is fine by me. Let me know what you like best and what you don't like, and we'll try to accommodate. Anyway, happy collecting. Have a good week.